In this video, we're going to be talking about some aspects of real estate market in Calgary, and it may be useful for those who are thinking of buying their first home, and especially for those who are new to Canada, new to Alberta, new to Calgary. Some misconceptions, some things which most of buyers dismiss, how the market does look like right now, and what you have to do if you are thinking to step in on this path of buying your home. I hope you will enjoy. Today I'm with the guy who is a real estate agent, and he is working with the sellers and buyers as well. He's been working in this field for 16 years so far, and he's the person who inspired me to switch my career into real estate agent as soon as I will be able to. So this is Aleksey.
Yeah.
And welcome, and I'm really glad to have you on this my first video. And so
I'm honored. Thank you so much for having me over.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. So how are you doing today?
I'm doing excellent. I'm doing great. It's a great day to buy and sell some real estate. So.
Oh yeah, that's true. So Aleksey, please tell me and tell our audience, how did you get into real estate, and when it happened?
So I became licensed in 2010, 16 years in business. I got into this business by mistake. I didn't know what to do really with my life. I was 24 years old. 16 years ago, me and my parents were buying and selling homes. We were flipping some houses, fixing them up and selling for profit. And I looked at all the agents that were making all these crazy commissions. And I thought, oh, these guys are not doing anything. All they're doing is open houses, and then they dress fancy and they're collecting all this big money for commissions. So I thought I should try it. And then I was 24, and I didn't plan to become a realtor for all my life, but after a few years, I started liking it, and now it's my career. So yeah.
Sounds amazing and easy, but still, was it the first job which you took in Canada? Because you are an immigrant, right, as well as I do, so as I am. How did you start? Was it the first time?
Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, I went to school and to become a computer programmer. I didn't really know myself well when I first got into the school, and after I finished it, and I got my first job as a computer programmer. I worked for a couple of years. I realized this is not what I want to do in my life for sure. I hated it. I hate computers. I hate technology. Hate numbers. And I tried real estate. I understood that I'm better with people than I am with computers.
For sure. But you are great with numbers as well, right? Because real estate.
Yeah, of course. Of course, you have to be great with numbers. But yeah, I didn't like computers. But I'm better with people than I am with technology. Of course, I need, as a realtor, you need to know the numbers. You need to understand what you're doing, which I do.
For sure, so, yeah. So sometimes it's helpful to have something you hate, just to get
100%.
to the
That was great. I'm grateful that I went to school and became a computer guy, and I'm grateful for my first job that I had for a year and a half, and then I learned very early in my career that this is not what I want to do, which is important for people. I need to understand that.
Absolutely.
And I'm lucky to have that happen early in my career.
So you mentioned you had seen lots of people who were realtors at that time, and they were doing also like good money, and you decided to go to this field. But what mistakes did you make at that time, like at the first year being a real estate agent? Do you remember any of them?
First year it was I did probably about 10 deals. I helped 10 people to buy or sell houses.
For the whole year?
For the whole year. So it wasn't too bad. I mean, it was completely brand new. I didn't know how to interact with people. It was hard that way. I'm not sure I made any serious mistakes. I very early in my career, I hired a real estate coach, who taught me how to sell real estate, how to interact with people, how to run my own business. This is a business. So very early, I started listening to what my coach was telling me. And that saved me from making a lot of mistakes. So let's put it this way. So
Okay, got it. So yeah, and when did you feel that it is going to be your life, like being in real estate? Like soon, maybe it was the first year, or second, or like after
no,
5 years
yeah,
being in this field? Yeah,
that's a good question. It's probably not the first year, not the second year, probably not the third, probably after year 4 in real estate. This was 2014. Then I thought, you know what, this is probably, I can make it. I can make this my career. I can see myself doing this for a long time. I can, I can help people. I can work with people. I was learning how to become a good realtor. And so about probably year 4, I thought, okay, I can do this.
So yeah, it took a bit. Yeah, it's not a while, but a bit.
Took me a while to figure it out. Yeah. It wasn't easy, but
And is there anything you would do differently now if you have to start it again from the scratch?
I don't have a lot of regrets. This is a great career. I took a not a very easy, not a very orthodox path in real estate because I didn't have a lot of clients. I didn't have 0 clients. So what I started doing, I started knocking a lot of doors. I started doing a lot of cold calling. I started reaching out to people by phone at the door. I started calling people that were trying to sell homes there on their own on Kijiji. Back then Facebook Marketplace didn't exist. It exists now, but so Kijiji, and I started talking to a lot of people every day. So that's what I started doing. And
now you'll stick at the same way to.
I still do that.
You still do it.
I still do that.
It's still
after this interview, I'm going to knock on doors and talk to 25, 30 people, which I do every day.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's absolutely great because you have your hand on pulse, right? And every time.
It's important to talk to people. It's important to see houses. It's important to walk the streets and to really understand. Computer technology is amazing. Right now we have everything's on computers, everything's on the phone, but people live in houses. They don't live, inside a phone. Well, some people think actually live inside the house, but you have to be physically, you have to know what you're selling. You have to understand neighborhoods. And the best way to do that is to walk the streets or maybe ride on a bicycle.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And this is a great chance to ask you the next question. How would you describe the market nowadays?
Yeah. So
it's simple words.
Sure. It's called a balanced market. So we have what's a balanced market? So we have 4,000 homes on the market right now, just actually 3,970 homes, 4,000 homes on the market. In the past 30 days, we had 1,400 sales. Okay. So if you take 4,000 homes divided by 1,400 sales, it gives you about 2.9 months of supply. So if no new homes came on the market, we would last 2.9 months. That's how much inventory we have on the market right now, 2.9. So when your inventory is between 2.5 and 3.5 months of supply, this is called a balanced market. So, it's not a seller's market. It's not a buyer's market. It's somewhere in between. So it's a balanced market. It's not a bad market at all. 2 years ago, 3 years ago, people couldn't buy a house. We had 2 weeks of supply.
2 weeks, yeah.
And we have now 3 months of supply of inventory. That's the difference. But pre-COVID, for example, when the market was really, really down in Alberta, we would have 6-7 months of supply of inventory. So we're now 2.9 months. So it's a good condition of the market. You can actually go and buy a house. You can select. You can go view the house, and you don't need to rush and write an offer within 5 minutes of you seeing it. You can actually go home, think about it, and then sleep on it, and then make an offer the next day, and the house will still be there. 2-3 years ago, sure. You remember what was happening, right? It was insanity.
So even for the few last years, we've seen a lot. You've seen a lot because I wasn't so deep in this market, but it changes really fast, right? And what buyers probably misunderstand right now about this market? What do you think?
I see a lot of people. I see a lot of buyers still waiting for the market to go even more. The market has gone down about, depending on what you're buying. If it's a condo, house, or townhouse, attached or detached. But let's say overall the market went down. Let's say 10 to 15% compared to the peak of the market 2 years ago. Okay, so the market is down. The prices are down about 15%. Okay, A lot of people still wait and wait and wait and wait for prices to go even more down, which is fine, but time goes by. The time doesn't wait for you. So I see a lot of people waiting forever and never end up buying a house, and then you can never time a market. So I think that's the biggest mistake probably people do. They wait too long. If you want to buy a house, go buy a house.
Absolutely right. I agree with you because I have some point, and probably it's not. It wasn't like such a bad situation in Alberta as it was in Ontario, right? And the prices just keep going up and up and up, kept going up and up, and people were waiting and got nothing.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. And what do you think makes a good deal? What would you call a good deal? Is it does it depend on the space or its timing or it's probably condition or it's I don't know the location itself?
Yeah, sure. If you it depends on what kind of buyer you are. So if you're buying your first home, a good deal is something you feel good about. Okay, if you like this house, if you feel good inside a house or an apartment or a townhouse, buy it. If it's reasonably priced in this market, you have some choices. You can go and select. You can go and look at 15, 20 houses or condos or townhouses, and you can go home and think about. And if you feel that this house or this condo is the right one for you, yeah, you can negotiate some price off the list price. If you feel good about it, go and buy it. Now, if you're a flipper, for example, if you buy houses to renovate and fix up and resell for profit, that's a whole different ballgame. You always make money when you purchase, not when you sell, but when you purchase. So for an investor or renovator or flipper, it's very important to buy it as low as possible. It's important to buy as low as possible for everybody. But if you're in that type of business of flipping houses, it's really important that you don't emotionally buy a house. At first-time home buyers, they can afford to buy they can afford to be emotional. Investors and business people that are doing this every day, they cannot be emotional about this. So that's a little bit different. So you make all the money when you buy property, not when you sell it. Okay.
Absolutely, yeah, and yeah, we can assume that if you're gonna do a business in real estate, you have to be like full engaged and watch the trends and not be emotions, make all mistakes. And by the way, what are the most mistakes which buyers like misunderstand or like underestimate?
Sure. It could be the mistakes are subjective to each person, but I see a lot of people, for example, they're not doing enough research. They want to go. Especially if it's tough if you're buying a house from out of province or if you're not in town. Okay, it's hard. Sometimes you have to do that, but not being on the ground and just looking at the map, that can be tough. Okay, so if you're ready to buy, it's better if you go and walk the streets. If you decided to buy a house in this particular area, take the weekend, take your partner, spouse, wife, and kids, and go and walk the streets. Go see what the schools are. Go see what's around. Go see if you like the neighborhood. Okay, so do your homework, do your research before you go and put an offer. Okay, you can obviously, if you have a good real estate agent, that's the value of a good realtor. They can advise you. They can give you a good advice if this is a bad community, good community. But you really should be doing your own research as well. Right now, ChatGPT can tell you a lot of things, but it's best if you physically go and do some research yourself.
You're absolutely right, and I honestly, my humble opinion is if you can, I know in Canada it's not so easy, but if you can rent an apartment close to the house which you like, just for 1 or 2 months and just live there and see how it goes, how do you feel, that's a great thing to do, but it's not so common in Canada, right? Because mostly all the contracts for renting an apartment is 1 year or more. So,
sure.
But as you mentioned, ChatGPT can help, but still he doesn't feel as you do, right? So
exactly,
it's the best great advice just to go and see. And how do you think? Is there any red flag? Well, lots of them, which you shouldn't ignore at all.
Yeah, so if you red flags, they can apply to different types of properties. If you're buying an apartment, okay, it's important to study and analyze, because you're buying into a corporation, okay, into a homeowners association, a condominium. That's the association of homeowners. So it's important when you buy a condo, for example, not to be. If you like the apartment itself, this is great, but you need to understand that you're buying in a solid, financially solid complex or building. So you need to check condo documents, make sure they're solid. Okay, so if there's some talk of a special assessment, you probably have to be careful, make an informed decision about that, right? If you're buying a house, I mean, a good agent will tell you have to check title, obviously, and then if there's anything that's fishy or that's on title, you have to be, maybe consult with a lawyer or with your realtor. Okay, so again, it comes down to doing research, and then having really a good realtor on your side, a good lawyer on your side as well, a good home inspector on your side. It's important especially if you're a first-time home buyer, to do home inspection of the house. 2-3 years ago, it was impossible because there's, a house hits the market and within a few hours they have 15 offers. Right now in this market, you can hire a home inspector and make sure that there's no mold up in the attic. There's no cracks in the basement. Nothing is leaking in the basement. The furnace is good. So,
all these things matters. And you have a great point about doing your homework and have a great realtor. But just in case, I know that unfortunately lots of people, lots of buyers or sellers, doesn't matter, but they tend to put all the responsibilities onto real estate agent. And it's not correct, because you probably have experienced something from this point of view, right? Then somebody just blame you because you recommended, but still everyone is responsible for their choice, right? And they have to do that research and just deep into the situation. But and about condo, you're absolutely right. You are buying just a piece of building, and you have to commit to fulfill all the requirements from the condominium, condo board. And what would you say about the newcomers? Because there are lots of them now, and Canada is just the country which is built on the newcomers, right? It's my point of view, but still. What would you say for them? What kinds of advice do you have for them? And maybe what mistakes do they usually make? Because lots of them want to have the property, their own property, and just tell me your thoughts about.
Sure. Yeah, that's actually a very, very good question. The number one advice I give to any newcomers that are coming, that are getting ready to buy a house or their first condo or townhouse, is buy the property first. Do not buy your brand new car first, okay? Because it's easy to get. You can walk into any dealership and you can get a car loan within 5 seconds. You'll get approved just like that, okay? But when it comes to getting a mortgage, it's not as easy to get a mortgage. Okay, banks are very, very strict, and then jumping into a brand new car and getting a loan, that will affect your ability to qualify for a mortgage. Okay, so if you ever decide to buy a house or a condo, go get a used car for $5,000, $10,000. Never buy a car on lease or financing, because it's hard to then qualify for a mortgage. Okay, that's number one. Number two, do your homework. Take your time. This market allows you to take your time. That's the beauty of this balanced market. You don't have to rush. You don't have to go and buy a house this weekend or next weekend. You can take your time, walk the streets, right, and talk to people. See if the schools in this area are good. See if this neighborhood is safe. Calgary is a pretty safe city overall, but there's some areas that you have to be careful, right? Especially if you have young kids. So take your time, don't rush, don't buy cars. Buy your car after you buy the house.
Yeah, by the way, you gave the same advice for me.
I did.
But I did the opposite. I did take a loan because I needed the car that back then, and I didn't want to get a used one, and that affected the amount of money which bank gave me later on. But finally, we found a great condo, so I'm really happy. So but absolutely right. And please tell me about your perspective on how people should choose the real estate agent, because there are so many of them, yeah, and this market just filled with agents, and it's really difficult to know whom you can trust. And what do you think about that? How people can choose with the right one for them?
That's a good question. Well, it's important, I think, to select an agent who has some experience. Okay, number one. Number two, it's important that the agent, and this is where you have to read people and understand people. You need to make sure that the agent puts your interest first. And this is probably the hardest one. You need to make sure basically that the agent acts in your best interest, not in their best interest. Because if you start working with an agent and you feel like you're being pushed into the deal, if the agent pressures you and tells you, sign the contract, buy it right now, this is a good deal, and if you're being pressured, maybe that's not a good sign. Okay, maybe work with an agent and go for a coffee with them, ask them questions, and see how many years they've been doing this, how they work with buyers, what, in their opinion, is a good deal, what in their opinion is a good agent should be asking you a lot of questions. Okay.
Absolutely, yeah, because I know this question is tricky and it's difficult because it's all about people, and as you mentioned, how you can read them, and but yeah, lots of us trust our feelings. They are not always true, but still, probably the first few minutes, if you feel something is going wrong, you probably shouldn't go with that one.
Yeah, you have to be comfortable with the person you work with. You have to trust them. And like I said, a good agent should be asking a lot of questions, just so he knows or she knows what you need. Okay,
what do you look exactly? Yeah,
this whole thing should be about you, not about the agent. It doesn't really matter how many years he's been selling real estate or how many homes he's sold. He should be acting in your best interest, and for him to do that, he needs to understand what you need, what your needs and objectives are. Once the person understands that, it will be easier for them to guide you towards making the right decision. So,
yeah, and I think it's going to be important questions about the commission. So I know people always think that, not always, but lots of people think that real estate agents make more than they should, but should be making. But again, for example, if agent from the very beginning start with the phrase, for example, I will lower my commission, would you trust that guy?
Look, people have perception, especially if you go to cities like Toronto or Vancouver, where the average sales price is, $1 million, $1.5 million. The agent is making $25,000, $35,000 per deal. In Calgary, it's a little bit different. Calgary average sales price is, $600,000, $650,000. So average is making 11, 12, 12,000, which is a lot of money. Let's face it. An agent is doing a deal and then he's making $12,000. Okay. Now, if an agent just all of a sudden drops his commission 50%, let's say if somebody comes and asks him, hey, give me a kickback of 50% and I'll go with you. If an agent does that right away, I would be very careful with that agent. If usually agents that are knowledgeable, experienced, and if they're really care about clients, they will put a lot of work and effort and time and energy into helping a buyer buy a house or sell a house. And if an agent cuts his commission, whatever, 50%, I don't care, it doesn't matter. Then I would be careful with that type of person. If it's like a lawyer, you go to a lawyer and then you ask a lawyer to do a transaction for you, and the lawyer's fee is, for example, $2,000. And if you ask a lawyer to cut his commission, half, and if the lawyer agrees to do that right away, I'd be very careful with that lawyer. So,
I'll explain why I asked these questions, because I have exactly the same point of view. And why? Because I had been working for almost 15 years in retail sales, and I think everyone who runs the business, everyone who runs the business, the last thing which you have to do to get the client is just do the any kind of drop prices here or any kind of discount, because in that case you don't respect yourself, you don't respect your work, you don't respect your product, and all the agents still had to go through all the education, all this process, and all this just deep into this field and know what they are going to do. So.
Yeah, that's a great point. My coach says if an agent doesn't have courage to defend his own commission and his own self-worth, how much courage will they have defending your interests?
Absolutely, yeah. That's a great point. Yeah. You're absolutely right. And what do you think about some quick questions I will ask you, and just let me know your first thoughts which come into your mind. Okay.
Let's do it. I love it.
Yeah,
of course.
So now let's start from the easy one: condo, house.
House.
Why?
Because if you have a house, you don't pay a condo fee. You're not in a corporation. You don't depend on the management. You don't pay. You don't depend on the bylaws and the association of other people. Okay, when you are in the condos, you have to respect your neighbors, above you, right below you, to the left, to the right, behind you, right. So too many neighbors that you're sharing walls with. In a house, it's a little bit different. Okay, so you don't need to worry about. You still have to be respectful, of course, to your neighbors. But you don't need to. If you want to paint your door red, you can do that. If you want to, build a fence, you can. Generally speaking, you can do that. In a condo, it's a little bit tricky.
You buy your freedom if you buy a house.
You have more freedom. Okay, you still have to be careful. Yeah, I mean, we live in Canada, and you have to obey laws, and
insurance.
You have to have insurance, of course. Yes, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. New build or resale?
Resale.
Why?
I don't really love how, especially during the boom times, builders are rushing to build houses. It's always rush, go, especially in a boom time, and unfortunately the quality suffers. Houses that were built, I own a few houses, and some of them were built 50 years ago, and the quality of construction is by far exceeds the quality of construction that you get right now. So I would rather buy a house that was built 40 years ago. I would replace just the roof and windows, and everything else would be very, very solid, rather than me buying a house right now that was built in a rush during the winter in 6 months. I would not do that.
Unfortunately, I can only point out that it's absolutely true, because, as you know, I work in construction, and I've seen for the last 2.5 years a lot of mistakes which have been made like every day. And you're right, rush, more units, more buildings, more houses, less quality, and it's insane. And because of the people, yes, so many companies need more qualified people, but where they can get them?
Yeah. Plus the lots. If you go to a community that's 50 years old or 40 years old, the lots are much bigger than they are right now. Look, if you have no choice, if you have to buy a house and the only thing you can afford is a new build, sure, go buy it, live there for 5 years. The market goes up, you sell it, and go and buy a house on a bigger lot. I mean, maybe a bungalow. That's in an older community. Plus, the trees are, bigger, and I like trees myself. I like green. And in newer communities, of course, you have a little bit less of that, which is fine. And we started out years ago with a brand new build. And then we, after some time, we sold it and bought something in a different area where that was a little bit more mature, with a little bit more infrastructure.
Yeah, I got it. Size or location?
Location.
Why?
Of course, yeah, location.
I know why, but still, yeah.
Yeah, if you there's a saying in real estate which I love: buy the most. It's better to buy the worst house in the best neighborhood than the best house in the worst neighborhood. Okay, so you can't change the neighborhood. You can change the house. You can extend the house. You can pretty it up and make it more beautiful. And then, like, if you only have your wife and your kids, I mean, maybe you don't need a big house. It's not always about square footage and more and more and more. But if you're living in a fantastic community in a smaller house, I would choose that versus me being living in a mansion in the middle of nowhere, which I hate. Uh, that's just personal, but I would go location.
Location,
Of
because
course,
it's all about feeling, right? When you live in the right space,
of course.
which makes you feel great and like alive and connected to all these people, beautiful people. Because if it's a great community, it's a great people
It,
usually lives there. So yeah, it just makes you feel different.
it always depends on what you want. Maybe some people, maybe they, especially a lot of people when they're starting out, and if you the further out you go from the center of the city, the cheaper the prices, the more affordable the prices become. So if you go in a brand new area where there's no trees and maybe a little bit less infrastructure, and if you don't care about it so much, then you can go and buy that house there, which is fine. But if you start caring as time goes by, if you start caring proximity to your work and maybe a better school, maybe proximity to a river or proximity to a lake, then you have to go location.
Yeah. But yeah, it's another story. It's about planning your life, right? I mean, yeah,
Absolutely.
so, yeah. But one thing which you never compromise on.
I will never. That's a good question. I will never. I will never. So when people, this is especially applies to people when they call me and they want to buy a house and they live in Ontario, Vancouver, okay, and they don't know me. They maybe somebody told them about me, but I will never advise people. It doesn't matter if they're out of town or they live here. I will never advise them to buy something that I wouldn't buy myself. I will never do that. So I would never put a person into an area or community or building or house or the street that I would not live on or I wouldn't invest in as a rental property, for example. I'll never do that. So I always that's my gauge. If I like it, and I'll tell them. Again, it's not really about me, but if they ask my opinion and say, Aleksey, would you live here? I said, if I'm not 100% with that, I'll tell them the truth. I said, you know what, guys, maybe consider this. Maybe this is not something. Yeah, maybe you haven't paid attention to this. That I have a little bit more experience living in Canada for 20 years. I'd say maybe you should don't buy it. I won't be afraid to tell them, um, even if that results me not doing a deal. But I will never compromise them. I will never lie with a person.
And we went through all the same with you, because yeah, every country where we went to look at, yeah, you always like, okay, but maybe we'll look something differently, and finally we ended up with the great ones. Thanks. And what makes you laugh then you think of from your like almost 16 years of experience? Maybe there were some funny situation with the clients, and just share maybe.
Yeah, that's a good question. I we were doing a deal. This is me. So I also invest in real estate. Okay, so this was a deal we were working on with my partner, and we bought a house from a guy that was actually at the time the seller was in jail. Okay, he was he was he was good. He was getting out of jail. And he was getting out of jail and he was selling a house. So he signed the purchase contract from the jail, which is fine. I mean, bad things happen and people do end up in jail, unfortunately. But as he was getting out of jail, he was signing that deal, and so we bought a house. The house was full of stuff. It was every room was filled with furniture and old things and old stuff. And then he actually, when we took possession of the house, there was a car that was left on the driveway, a beautiful car, and then we weren't sure what. So the car came to the house, but in Canada you cannot just take the car. You have to, if a car is abandoned, you have to report it to the police. So it took us a couple of weeks to get rid of the car, to get the guy to come back and take the car, and then carry get carried away. Yeah. So yeah, that was a very interesting. Very interesting transaction that I was involved in, actually as a buyer, as an investor. So yeah.
Yep. Shit.
Yeah.
I want to say yeah, but still. Yeah, and before we finished and we ended our conversation, beautiful one, I really appreciate it. Like the last piece of advice which you can get to anyone who is about to make the biggest pushes in their life, because house or condo doesn't matter. It's just it's a big one. Yeah.
Sure. So we came to Canada in 2004. Okay, we came with zero money. Okay, we worked really hard. My parents, my mom, my dad, myself, my sister was young; she wasn't working, but we worked our butts off for 9 months, and we saved 5% for down payment. Okay, we bought our first house 9 months after we arrived to Canada. Now the prices were different, but the salaries were
The
also
time was different. That's all. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, but don't wait too long. Okay, work as hard as you can to buy a house. Then work as hard as you can to save up money and buy a rental property. Okay, then work as hard as you can as hard as you can to maybe put a basement in the suite, and so you can get some extra income from that. I'm very passionate about investing in real estate. All the money I make, I put into rental properties. Okay, that's something I'm very passionate about. So my advice is buy real estate. It's never too late. Okay, don't try to time the market. You will never be able to time it right. If you have made a decision to buy a house or a property or an apartment or a townhouse, just go and do it. Do your research, hire the best professionals you can do, surround yourself with knowledgeable people, with good inspector, lawyer, realtor, mortgage broker, get the right advice, and do not delay. Go and do it. That will be the best thing you've done in your life financially is buying a house, and then start buying rental properties. Do that, and then 20, 30 years from now, you'll be set. You won't have to depend on the government to get pension or to worry about government handouts. You'll be set for life.
You have to act, yeah. If you don't act, you won't get anything. So, and I forgot to ask you about that one probably important thing, because is there any restrictions for newcomers to buy any property in Alberta? Because we now in Alberta, so just let's talk about this one. Because honestly, when we came to Canada, I thought there are some of them which restrict us from buying a condo house just to live in. But now we know there is nothing. But I would like you to say something about.
Sure. So laws change all the time. Last time I checked the laws about newcomers, if you have a work visa, work permit, that's not less than 180 days, you are allowed to buy a property. Okay, it can only be one property as far as I know. Okay, so you can buy your primary residence, your condo, your townhouse, your house that you move in and live there, but only one while you're still on that work visa. Okay, once you have a permanent resident status, you can buy as many real estate as you can. But once and that permit cannot be less than 180 days. So that's very important to understand. If your permit is about to expire, or if it's 1 month or 2 or 5 months left on closing day, that's very important to know. That's something you have to understand, that if you buy a house right now, but your permit will be less than 6 months on closing day, lawyers will stop the transaction. You won't be able to buy the house. So you have to be careful with that. But only one property, and once you get your PR status, you can buy as many as you can.
So yeah, don't wait. And yeah, it's probably enough for now, just because yes, the process of getting permanent resident status is really difficult now, and I'm still going through all of that. And but at least something to live in, and just don't pay rent. Yeah, why you should pay someone if you can pay yourself, and just build some equity, and then you can use it, right, for getting a mortgage and for again and buy another property. So
especially when the market is down, like I said, the market is, so a lot of people when the market goes down, people start worrying about a lot of things, which I understand. There's uncertainty with tariffs and economy and jobs, and people just they get entered this analysis paralysis sort of state, and then they wait, and then market starts going up, and then you lose out on that. Because the prices starting going up. Now, the other thing to consider is during the downturn, the government, central bank, they lower the interest rates. So during boom time, the government is trying to slow down the market, so interest rates are high. You're paying 6%. Right now, you're paying 3.9. Right around 4%. So that 2% difference is really compensates for for the prices.
So just build your savings and wait. As soon as time comes, just buy a property, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Good question. What to start from? You understand, mate?
Yeah, so that's really actually a very good question. What they should really start, I would start by writing things down on the paper, because we tend to think and talk and dream about a lot of stuff. But I would write a plan to understand what you really want and what you really need. And then if so, let's say you want to buy, your dream is to buy a house, okay? Then you should maybe call a good real estate agent and ask them, or you could go to realtor.ca and see what houses are selling for. So if you see something you like is around 650,000, for example, then this is your budget, you think. But then you should go to the bank, or call a mortgage broker and see what you can actually afford to buy. Okay, that's probably. So that's the second step I would do. So see what first determine what you want to do. If that's a condo, townhouse, or a house, then you go talk to the bank or mortgage broker and see how much you can qualify for. They will tell you how much down payment you'll need and how much income you will need to get a mortgage. That may change your plan. So if your plan was to buy a house for $800,000 in the Lake community, and all of a sudden the mortgage broker tells you that you can only afford a $400,000 townhouse, so your plan is going to change drastically. Maybe instead of buying a townhouse, you decide to pivot a little bit and go buy a condo, 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom condo. That's another plan. That's another option you can do. But understanding what you can afford financially, that's an important one, okay? And if you've decided that you don't want to buy a condo, you'll continue renting for another year, maybe save up enough down payment so you can afford to buy that house a year from now, for example. Again, the mortgage broker will tell you, the specialist at the bank will tell you what you need to do. Once you have gone through the stage of sort of pre-approval and then talking to the mortgage broker or the banker, once you know what you need to do, and if you do qualify for a mortgage, then you should start talking to a realtor and start maybe getting together for coffee and then start
go visit some places. Right?
Yeah, and then once the agent asks you a lot of questions, which they should, then you should set some appointments. The realtor will set appointments and showings, and they'll go show you some properties. The realtor good realtors, they usually work with a team of lawyers and home inspectors that they've worked for a long time. So you can start asking recommendations for a lawyer. You don't really need a lawyer in the beginning. The lawyer is the last piece of the puzzle. Once you've identified the house you like or a condo you like, the realtor will write up an offer and you'll negotiate for you, and then you'll do a home inspection. If it's a condo, you'll do a condominium documents inspection.
Yeah.
And then once your mortgage broker approves the deal, then you can remove conditions and then wait till closing day. And that's when you meet up with a real estate lawyer where you sign the land transfer, and then you wait till closing day to get the keys. So that's the process, very in a nutshell.
Yeah, but it's absolutely enough, to realize what you have to do.
But it all starts with a plan. It all starts with a thought. What our mind can, Napoleon Hill, what our mind can conceive, we can achieve. Right. So if you've made up your mind that you want to own real estate, you want to own a house, find out how much from a realtor or realtor.ca how much you need for that house. Then talk to a broker, see what you need to do financially to own that house. How much money do you have to make? Because if you want to buy a house for $800,000, you have to be making, you and your spouse will have to be making a lot of money to afford that type of real estate. So that may change as well, depending on the conversation that you have with your broker. But yeah, you're right.
Yeah, just do your homework, right, guys? So it's all about
yeah.
it. Yeah. So, Aleksey, it was great to see you and to have you today, and I really appreciate that you come and share all your experience and knowledge, and I really hope that our audience will benefit from it. Aleksey, thank you so much.
Thank you, Alex.
Yeah,
okay.
Thanks. And please don't forget to leave your comments. I read them all, and pretty often I use them for the next topics. So please join the channel and see you soon.